What's going on, everybody? Welcome to historic Crew Stadium. We're here in Columbus. You may not believe I'm actually here. I'm here in my car. The weather's a little hit or miss. It's raining here in Columbus, but we're still going to do the show. I didn't want to take any chances of being caught out in the rain with my phone and tripod and iPad and everything like that. So we're doing the show in the car tonight. Thanks so much for joining us live on Facebook, X, and YouTube for Stadium Drive Week 14. It's the regional final round in the Ohio High School Football Playoffs. And tonight, like I said, we're at historic Crew Stadium, Division I, Region 3 final between the number 1 seed Olentangy Liberty Patriots and the number 7 seed Pickerington North Panthers. Got a chance to talk to both coaches, along with a couple other coaches that are still left in the playoff bracket in different divisions in our coverage area. So we'll talk to them. We'll start the show with those interviews and close out with the game we're here at tonight. But Olentangy Liberty, an outstanding season in the OCC, league champions, 11-2 record to this point through 13 weeks of the football season, and avenging their Week 7 loss, 31-28 to Upper Arlington in the regular season. They defeated them 17-13 in the final minute. It was a thrilling game, and Olentangy Liberty, which relies on high-powered offense, had to really grind a game out. Justin Buttermore and the Golden Bears are that defense. It's 100% a top defense in the state of Ohio. And so to grind it out in a playoff atmosphere, well done by Liberty. And for Pickerington North, an outstanding defensive effort by them as well against number 6 Olentangy Berlin, shutting down Aiden Eviston. He did get his yards running the football, but only one touchdown score. They won that game 10-7, and they did just enough on offense to get the job done, but defensively they were stellar. They blocked a field goal with under 3 minutes to play that it was able to kind of ice the game, seal the game for them, and it sets up what should be a great regional final tonight for Olentangy Liberty. This is their third regional final in 5 years, 6 out of the last 9. And for Pickerington North, it's their first time in the regional final since 2017 when Nathan Hillerich took over as the head football coach with this Panther program. So that's going to be good. But let's start in Division I, Region 2 tonight with an interview with Brent Ullery, the Centerville Elks. They're taking on Wayne, a team that they defeated pretty handily in Week 10. Their quarterback, running back duo, Shane Cole, Parker Johnson combined for 270 yards rushing in that Week 10 matchup. So they're looking to do more of the same here in this game, in this rematch with Wayne in the regional final. But they're going to try to be a little bit more balanced. And Coach Ullery tells an excellent story of talking to a former Centerville head coach, a legend with the Elks, and some playoff wisdom. So he shares that. And let's hop into that now. Coach Ullery, Centerville Elks, live here on Stadium Drive, week number 14, regional final round of the Ohio High School Football Playoffs, and we're live on Facebook, X, and YouTube. We really appreciate you being here. And here is Coach Ullery with the Elks.
Dark before you know it, and then you're up in the morning before you know it.
That's what I hate, dude. Is that you leave the office at 5 o'clock? It's dark outside. It's like, where'd the day go? The day's over.
Might as well go to bed.
That's what I'm saying. That's what it feels like. Brent Ullery is back for the second week in a row. Centerville Elks, Division I, Region 2, in the regional final after a massive win over Dublin Kaufman, who was red hot. They won 42-7. Coach, it seemed like your offense was remarkably balanced in this game against Kaufman, especially on offense. Shane Cole was 11 for 11, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns. Parker Johnson had another big day running the football, and you said you were going to rely on him as you have all year long, 131 yards and a touchdown. But then also the opening kickoff, I feel like really just set the tone for your team as well. A 93-yard opening kickoff return touchdown from Zaire Alston. I mean, all around that effort that you put forth last Friday, what did you love about it?
You just love to see, my favorite thing is to watch the kids prepare. And they prepare really hard. They are intentional about it. They intentionally fight complacency. We've had some big wins leading up to last Friday, and it would have been easy for them to be like, okay, we've arrived. We're a good team, and they don't have that mentality at all. They work really hard during the week, and they get coaching. And that kickoff return, for example, was coached, and their kickoff return coach did a great job of doing that, and those 11 kids did a phenomenal job of making it a priority. And my favorite thing is to watch that preparation and then watch it come to fruition, and just seeing those kids like realize like, okay, you don't have to get instant gratification. You can delay the gratification and just work hard, and um, it'll show up eventually. And it did Friday night, across the board, defensively, offensively, on the ground, through the air. It was a lot of fun to watch and be a part of. But now it's time to get back to work.
It is indeed. Amari obviously got his yards. He didn't maybe put up as big of a rushing total as he has in the previous 3 weeks, but he still had over 100 yards. Did get a touchdown near the end of the game, but I thought what stood out more was when they had to throw it more, when they were down, he completed less than 50% of his passes, which I think that speaks to the preparation of your defense. But I know you've talked before about just how great your defense has been. It's a staple of Centerville football. But as far as defending him, Amari's a unicorn of a player like we talked about last week, I'm sure you're very pleased with, the defense of a superstar like him.
Yeah, he's impressive. He certainly had all the respect of our coaching staff and our team and our program, going into the game, and still even after the game, we really respect how he carries himself, how he plays the game. You can tell he's a relentless competitor, and to see our guys get out there and compete and be disciplined and do their job and not try to do someone else's job. You see, you know, I don't want to say great players get bottled up or anything like that, because he's a hard player to bottle up. But you saw the result, and that was the result of the kids' preparation, their coaches being intentional and having a great game plan, and the kids going out ultimately and executing it.
Now, Wayne is next for the regional final. It's a team that you saw at the end of the regular season in Week 10, and you guys defeated them 38-14. But obviously, it's playoff football, and it's a chance to go to the state Final Four. So there's a lot more on the line, and the atmosphere is just completely different. And it's hard to beat a team 2 times in a season. When you look at what the matchup, last time around, you guys ran the ball extremely well. I think 270 combined yards between, Shane and Parker. Obviously, I'm sure you're going to rely on a lot of the same, and you're not going to change what you do. But there's just so much more emotion and so much more meaning behind this game because it's a chance to go to the state Final Four.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a big game, but we talk to our kids about this all the time, and I think they really believe it, that we're not practicing today to win a game. We're not going to show up Friday night to win a game. We're not even going to try to make a play during the game to win the game. It's all about the process, and it's one step at a time, one rep at a time, one day at a time. Just try to be better today than we were yesterday, and be better in the next rep than we were the rep before. And our kids really embrace that process orientation, and I think that's the key to success. You try to stare down a beast like Wayne, and they're a great football team. We got great coaches, great players. They do great things. And if you try to bite off the whole elephant all at once, it's not going to work out. But if you just keep chewing and keep chewing and keep chewing throughout the week and throughout the year and everything, eventually, you can get that elephant down.
Bite off the whole elephant. That's a new one, man. I haven't heard that one. It's pretty good. You got to live by that for sure. Their defense, though, Wayne's, they did a good job against Davidson last week. Davidson could not move the ball, through the air. Davidson was able to run the ball pretty effectively, though, which I think lends it's to your advantage, I think, because you guys like to run the football. Davidson did have over 200 yards on the ground and whatnot. But given how efficient Shane has been the last couple of weeks, do you think do you try to pepper in the pass just to have the threat of being balanced? But I also know in that game in Week 10, you really relied on running the football a lot more than you did throwing it. I mean, when you're putting together your offensive game plan, what does it look like for you?
You asking that question triggered a story in my head. I'll tell you real quick. My first year as a head coach was 2017, and we won our Week 10 game. Doesn't matter. And we were getting ready for Week 11. I was going in Saturday morning. It was it was early. It was probably 4:30 a.m. And we have a donut shop in Centerville, 24-hour donut shop. And I go in there to buy donuts for all the coaches. And I bump into a legend in Centerville football, Bob Gregg. He's our old head coach. He's since passed, but he's a legend, and he knows how to do things. And I bump into him, and he recognized me. I got to play for him for a year and everything, and he knew I had the job. And he's like, "Hey, Brent, I want to talk to you. How's the season going?" And he didn't know much at the time. And I told him we were getting ready for playoffs, blah, blah, blah. And he gave me a piece of advice. And, it's an awkward piece of advice coming from him, or, kind of ironical, because he was a triple option coach, a ground and pound coach, and everybody thought of him as run 99.9% of the time. But he said, "Hey, Brent," he goes, "you're going in the playoffs. If you want to be successful in the playoffs, you have to be able to throw the ball. You have to. You need to find a way to throw the ball." And at the time, he didn't know that we were wide open spread, throwing the ball 70% of the time.
Sure.
But he gave me that advice, and I've kind of I took it, and obviously it was no problem that year throwing the ball, because that's what we did. But as we've kind of progressed in our offense, we've made sure to keep a priority on being able to move the ball vertically and horizontally through the air. And I think that's what's going to take. Like, I don't think that you can just sit there and say we're going to load up the box and just try to go 11 on 11 and beat many teams. Like, maybe it will work, maybe it's not. But if you want to have the best chance at winning Friday night, I think you got to put the ball in the air and be successful doing that. So we plan on doing that. I don't know what percentage we'll end up at. I'll tell you after the game, I guess. But it's definitely going to be part of the game plan, and leaning on those players that help us do that, and see where we fall at the end.
And I know you don't focus too much on the defensive side of the ball, but I'm sure you've seen at least some film on, this trio of guys that Wayne has. And obviously you saw them, in week 10 as well when you played them. But I mean, great games last week from, Tyrell Lewis, Isaiah Thompson, and Jameer Everett-Brown. Tyrell Lewis is kind of a dual threat quarterback, similar to your guy Shane. But he had 4 total touchdowns, and he did a really good job moving it through the air. Isaiah had 151 yards on the ground, and Jameer had 168 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. I mean, they're a very balanced offense, and I'm sure that there's a lot of things that maybe not necessarily concern you, but you have to be worried about with their offense when you look at film.
Sure. They're a good football team. They're a really good football team. This is the final 8 teams in Division I football, right, in Ohio, which is a great football state. So there's no rollovers by any means, but those guys are extremely talented. Lewis is a phenomenal quarterback. He does it on the ground. He does it in the air. He can make plays last a lot longer than you want them to last. And, he's got toys on the outside, with, Jameer Everett-Brown and even Tion Hunter. And they have a tight end whose name's escaping me for a quick moment, number 7. They're all really good players. And, this Meesing guy at number 6, they've got toys to play with over there, skill toys to play with. And then they've got a really good offensive line and a running back in Isaiah Thompson to go behind them. And, they're a good team. That's what they are. They're a really good team and a really formidable opponent. They've got all of our respect. It's a rivalry game, and it'll be intense and, hopefully physical and violent and all that stuff that comes with a rivalry game. But they definitely have all of our respect, and we are aware of their strengths and what they do really well.
Yeah, well, the Elks are biting off one chunk of the elephant at a time on the quest for a state championship. So, and the next step is Wayne here in week 14, the regional final. Coach, I appreciate your time, man, as always, back-to-back weeks having you on our show. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I love listening to your stories as well. But best of luck to you against Wayne, and hopefully you guys keep playing this outstanding football in all 3 phases that you're playing right now.
I appreciate you having us on and talking about us and covering us. And, hopefully we get the opportunity to do this again next week.
I hope so, man. I hope so indeed.
Well, the Elks have a tremendous opportunity to get back to a state Final Four, playing Wayne tonight, and a team that they beat in week 10 pretty handily. They ran the ball extremely effectively. But this matchup comes after just a tremendous showing in week 13, the regional semifinal against Kaufman, winning 42-7. They returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown. Shane Cole was perfect throwing the football, 11 for 11, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Parker Johnson had 131 yards on the ground and a score as well. And this Elks defense obviously did what they do as well, shutting down Amari Valerio Hudson. But rivalry game, a chance to go to the state Final Four. Anything can happen, but the Elks, I know, are ready. But let's now shift gears to Division 6. We've got a team still alive in the Division 6 regional final, and it's the Dalton Bulldogs, coached by Ray Leake, former Cambridge Bobcats head coach. And I'll tell you what, for Dalton, they're going to be taking on a Kirtland team this week that they played all the way back in week 1. So almost 3 months ago at this point. but things looked a lot different then than they do now. Dalton was missing two of their best players. They lost that game, I believe 55-34, something along those lines. But Sammy Tomlinson was missing, and he is their speedster on offense. And last week, he had 7 receptions, a buck 55, 2 touchdowns. He also returned a fumble recovery for a score in Dalton's 25-0 win over Springfield, New Middletown Springfield. He is in this matchup against Kirtland. They were also missing Matthew Heatwall defensively, and he has 20.5 sacks through 12 games on the season. He is a monster, a stud defensively. They have Cohen Riggenbach on the defensive front as well. And this is a team that held Springfield last week to just 170 total yards of offense. Now, Kirtland, they do what they do. Tiger Laverde and that squad, they are one of the state's best teams, and they have been for a very long time. Danny Alfieri had 4 rushing touchdowns last week. How do you stop Kirtland's rushing attack? There's nothing sexy about what Kirtland does. They just run it all night long. But this is a different kind of matchup, compared to week 1. And I think, you look at it on paper, everyone's like, oh, well, it's Kirtland. They win all the time. They win every year. And, Dalton has a history of winning too, but Kirtland has just had so much sustained success over a number of years. You look at it on paper, Kirtland won by 20 plus week 1 of the year. Oh, well, Kirtland might do the same thing this time around too. I don't think that's going to be the case tonight. I think this is going to be a pretty even matchup with guys back in the lineup for Dalton, and Dalton playing outstanding football going into week 14. But here's head coach Ray Leak of the Dalton Bulldogs on this Kirtland matchup here in the regional final in Division 6, Region 21. Here's Coach Leak, Facebook, X, YouTube Stadium Drive, week 14.
Ray Leak, Dalton Bulldogs joining us going into the regional final in Division 6, Region 21, coming off of a 25-0 shutout win against New Middletown Springfield. And Coach, I always appreciate your time, man. And the last time we got a chance to talk was in the preseason. And obviously, look at you now. You're in the regional final and on the cusp of a state Final Four once again for Dalton. But first of all, I want to talk about that game against Springfield, because you shut out Springfield, and that's something that you don't see too often, especially once you get this far in the playoffs, is shutting out a really good team like Springfield. But Sammy Tomlinson had 7 receptions, 155 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also returned a fumble for a score as well. And you guys also scored on your opening drive, like a minute or so into the game. I mean, how big was his performance offensively, Sammy's, but then also just kind of getting on the scoreboard early as far as, getting after it in that game?
Yeah, Sammy's a special dude, man. He can fly. He's electric with the ball. You saw that Friday night, 2 through the air. Defensively, he had the scoop and score for a touchdown. So, yeah, he's dangerous with the ball in his hands. We'll say that. And he got that one early. It's always nice to come out first drive, go up. That's a huge momentum swing for us there to start the game. So I'm just proud of our guys. Defense, you got to give them a shout out. Shutout. Man, they were all over the ball Friday night. Playing in their backfield. Matt Heatwall, those guys, just relentless effort. And it starts all week in practice. They had a great week of practice. They were ready to play Friday night.
Yeah, you mentioned Matt. I know he had a tremendous game on Friday, and you have Cohen Riggenbach as well on the defensive side. And I know that Matt has 83 tackles on the year, almost 40 tackles for loss. He has 20.5 sacks through 12 games or 13 games. I mean, he has just been outstanding. But, I mean, talk about that defensive effort collectively against Springfield and especially, Matt.
Yeah, it's a team game, right? The ultimate team sport takes 11 guys flying to the football all Friday night, but it starts with those guys up front. They're reestablishing the line of scrimmage, playing in their backfield, and stopping the run in the pass game. We were all over their quarterback as well. Those guys had a nice pass rush. Secondary did a good job in coverage. So it's just an overall team effort. And the shout out to Matt. He just plays with the motor. He doesn't care. He has one speed and one speed only, and he's pretty quick off the football. Does a good job at shedding his blocks. Cohen, he's also another big guy who stops to run up the middle. He takes a lot of the double teams on. You got Caden Russell, Trenton Hurt. Those guys are leading up front. Just an overall, absolutely proud of those guys and the effort they give, each and every day. But specifically Friday night, they came ready to ball out.
Absolutely. Yeah, your defense held Springfield to, I think, just 169 total yards of offense. And in the first half, it came up with some big turnovers on downs, to keep them out of the end zone in the first half. And obviously that led to the 25-0 win. But I do want to shift now to Kirtland here for this regional final. And it's a team that you saw in week 1. So a long time ago, a lot has changed between now and then. You lost that one 55-34. You were able to put a lot of points on the board, but they got the best of you in that one. Winning 55-34. I mean, what's different about this matchup maybe compared to week 1? I'm sure schematically it may not look a whole lot different, but personnel-wise it might, with injuries and things like that. I mean, what feels different about this matchup when because it was over 2 months ago at this point?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely going to be a different ball game. We're a whole different team, new coaching staff coming in, this spring and summer, installing everything brand new. We know our kids know us, so they know what to expect. I think, just the team bond and the trust that we have in one another and the way we're playing for the guy next to us and trusting him and making sure that he's going to be there to make that play. Schematically, we figured ourselves out as well, what works, maybe what doesn't with this team. So I think, we've got a couple guys too who didn't play week 1. Sammy Tomlinson went out early, in that game. Matt did not play that game. A couple other linemen. So, yeah, we're prepared. Our kids are going to be ready to play. One thing that I'll say about our kids is they won't back down from anybody. They're going to be ready to play Friday night.
Kirtland is primarily a running football team, and I saw them, do their thing last year against Garraway in the Final Four. They're a team that's, been dominant for so long. They've won 4 state championships in the last 7 years, and they've been to the state championship the last 7 years. So they obviously have a history of success, and they're used to being in this position. But how do you go about changing that? I mean, what do you have to do defensively to line up against that running game? Danny Alfieri had 4 rushing touchdowns last week. He is just he's the spearhead of that rushing attack on offense. How do you line up and get guys like Matt and Cohen lined up in the proper alignment to, get stops and not let him break loose?
Yeah, first and foremost, Kirtland's a very successful football team. They're well coached. They're hard nosed. They're blue collar. They're going to run the ball at you, and they're going to do what they do. I think for us, we've got to be gap sound. We've got to stay disciplined and make sure that we're doing our job only, and just play relentless football. Swarm to the football. Have an attitude. Refuse to be denied the second time around here. And you know what you're going to get 4 quarters. They're going to pound the ball at you. So we've got to be able to withstand that and make sure that we're disciplined all night long.
Well, let's say this game turns into another, shootout where it's 42-35, it's something like that. What does your offense need to do to keep pace, with the Kirtland offense? If they, break off long runs, they score touchdowns, what do you do to keep pace with them?
Yeah, it's as simple as getting the ball in our playmakers' hands, right? We've got a fast up-tempo offense that we can go to, just make sure that we give our quarterback time. We make sure we have holes for the running backs. Just basic football. The team who blocks the best, who tackles better, who wants it, who plays physical all night, is typically the team that's going to win. But, yeah, I think our offense, we got some playmakers on that side that if we get the ball in their hands, they're pretty dangerous out in space.
Yeah, it could look a lot different too this time around. Like you mentioned, you had some players out in week 1 and things have changed a lot since then, and you've got guys back in the lineup and you guys are playing excellent football right now. So I appreciate your time, Coach, hopping on today to talk some football, man. And you've got Dalton back in the state Final Four once again, a chance to get him back to the state championship in your first year as head coach. So congrats on the success so far, man, but hopefully it continues against Kirtland and you guys make it to the state Final Four.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Well, big thanks to Coach Leak and Coach Ullery for joining our show as they embark on a Final Four journey in the regional final in Division I Region 2 and Division 6 Region 21 respectively. And now let's shift back to the game we're here at tonight in Columbus at historic Crew Stadium, number 1 Olentangy Liberty, and then number 7 Pickerington North. We'll start on the Liberty side, 17-13 win against Upper Arlington, the number 5 seed last week. It came down to the final minute. It was Geno Saccoccia who he made a big mistake earlier in the game on a 4th down fake punt. made a cutback when he shouldn't have and got tackled for loss. They did not pick up the first down. It set up Upper Arlington with tremendous field position and put Liberty in a tough spot. And then what do you know? Final minute of the game, Andrew Leonard goes back to Geno. The guys rallied around him. He made a couple guys miss, gets into the end zone, 13-yard receiving score, and that put Liberty up 17-13. They held on to the lead, and they win the football game. Truly a really, really cool story. You're going to hear Coach Sansbury talk about just relying on him after making a mistake, and he is not one of the headliners of this football team. He's certainly a good player, but when you have guys like Leonard and like Jake Struck, Christian Moulton, guys that get tons and tons of opportunities and touch the ball a lot, some of these guys kind of they're in hiding, so to speak, and he stepped up in a big way when it mattered most. And let's talk to Coach Sansbury about this matchup with Pickerington North, whose defense is just playing absolutely lights out, but what they need to do also just to get the offense going a little bit more, because 17 points, that's not what they're accustomed to scoring. They're used to scoring 30 plus. So here is Coach Sansbury of the Olentangy Liberty Patriots getting ready for Pick North in this regional final, Division I, Region 3 here on Stadium Drive.
All right. Well, John Sansbury, Olentangy Liberty Patriots football in the regional final in Division I, Region 3. And Coach, I appreciate your time joining our show as always, and congrats on making it to the regional final. It's your third one in the last 5 years, and you did it with a 17-13, kind of a grinded out win over Upper Arlington. Avenged that Week 7 loss that you suffered to them, 31-28. But one guy that kind of atoned for one of his mistakes earlier in the game was Geno Saccoccia, who had that on that fourth down fake punt, didn't convert, but late in the game he scores the game-winning touchdown on a 13-yard reception under a minute left. You went back to him after that mistake on that fourth down. I'm sure it's got to feel really good, not only to get the win, but for a guy like Geno, who is maybe not one of the headliners on your team with guys like Jake and Christian and stuff, but he made a mistake, he bounced back, and he helped you guys get the win.
Yeah, that was awesome to see. He made a mistake on the punt, wasn't supposed to do that, and he came to the sideline right away and owned it. And he made the wrong read. Obviously led to a field goal, but it was great to see him get an opportunity and then it was a heck of a play. He made two guys miss to get into the end zone. It was 3rd and 5, so we're just trying to get a first down. They blitzed, and the original plan wasn't necessarily to go to him, but Andrew made the right read, and Geno was the guy that was open, and it was awesome to see him get a chance to make a play and then make a play. So he you're right. He doesn't get as much credit. Jake and Christian get a lot of it and get a lot of opportunities, but Geno's a pretty good player too. We've known that for 3 years, and he's hard to tackle. He can make guys miss, and he's had a lot of big catches to, get his first downs and things like that through the season. So it was, that was pretty fun to see.
Another guy that stepped up in a big way was Ben Godwin, 6 catches, 84 yards. He had a touchdown, but also an interception, his first one of the year on the defensive side of the ball. So he made a heck of an impact too.
Yeah, huge. I called him, the MVP after the game. And he had 6 catches for 80 yards. And then he's been playing defense really just in the red zone because he's a big kid. He's 6'3", and he's smart and he's tough and he cares a lot, and just he'll play anything we ask him to play. He's on kickoff return. He runs down on kickoff. His dad's the head lacrosse coach here, and so not surprising that Ben's a hard worker and ultra coachable and selfless, with his dad being the coach. And it was awesome to see. He's made some plays here and there, and we're definitely going to be counting on him next year to be kind of the guy. But it was great to see him step up when the team needed it, and he had a great game on both sides. And the interception in the end zone, that changed the game. Obviously, if they score there, I don't know what's going to happen. It would have been a tall order to score a couple times against that good defense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of good defenses, you had UA last week, and they made you grind it out in a 17-13 win. Now you've got Pickerington North next, and it's their first regional final since 2017. But their defense did an excellent job of shutting down Eviston, the Bears quarterback, last week, and only held that offense to 7 points. They won 10-7. Their run defense is spectacular, but they also just do a really good job against really talented quarterbacks, and they've done that all throughout the playoffs. And Eviston was just kind of the latest, in their stellar defensive play. How do you match up against what Pick North does defensively? Because they've got a guy, Daunte Curtis, who is a major disruptor. He had a blocked field goal in that game. How do you match up against what they do to put your offense in the best position to succeed?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, every team that's still playing is going to have a good defense, right? That's why they're here. But they got guys everywhere. I mean, their 4 defensive linemen are impressive. Their 2 backers, their 5 defensive backs they play with can do a lot of things and are very athletic and can run. And so, yeah, that's kind of what we've been trying to figure out all week is how do we get our guys in good positions to make plays and not ask them to do anything more than what they can do. And so, figuring out a way to establish the run, which we really struggled with last week against Upper Arlington. And then, obviously we feel really good about our quarterback, Andrew Leonard. He's going to make plays, but giving him opportunities to make the easy ones that potentially could give us and not trying to force too much. Obviously, got to take care of the football because this defense take the ball away and make a lot of things happen. And so just trying to figure out our matchups that we like against some of their guys and, just keep chasing first downs, put together drives, and give our guys chances to make plays.
Do you utilize the screen game at all? Because they say that the screen game is an extension of the running game. It's a way to just get the ball out quick and it's a kind of another way to kind of run the football in a sense. If it's little swing routes or screens to a receiver, do you utilize that at all early in the game to kind of maybe soften up the defense for the run?
We're going to try, but if they walk their DBs up and take away things, that presents problems.
Sure.
So, we've seen their defense do different things in different games in the playoff games that we have, and so we have plans for both, but we won't know until the first couple plays when we kind of see how they're going to play, how they're going to play Jake, how they're going to play Christian, what they're going to try and give up and take away, and just take what they give us. And so, yeah, we love, nobody loves throwing screens more than I do because as a defensive guy, that's pretty scary because an easy pass can turn into a long play just like that if you miss a tackle in space or miss or don't defeat a block. And so we've got some things ready, some things we're going to try potentially to help with that for sure.
Absolutely. And then when you look at the defensive side of things, they've got a talented quarterback in their own right, Jaron Mock. He's kind of a dual threat guy, and he scored the only touchdown for Pick North last week. It was a 10-yarder, but he's also just a pretty efficient passer too. Doesn't throw many incompletions. Preston Bowman had 130 total yards of offense receiving and running the ball. He actually had a big, 50, I think it was a 51-yard rush to seal that game against Berlin. Matching up defensively, what has the film shown you about what the best course of action is as far as bringing pressure or disguising, defensive coverages and things like that?
Yeah, they have what we'd say is they have some dudes, that's for sure.
Yeah.
With number 1, 0, and their quarterback and their other guys. They got a good offensive line, and their other receivers can run and make plays too, and they've done that. So, yeah, I mean, the key is, obviously we want to make sure we don't get outnumbered. They motion some, and we'll give some different looks. And then 1 and 0 are the big playmakers, obviously. So trying to contain them, not give up big plays, make them beat all 11 of us. Obviously, stuff we preach all year, run to the football, tackling together. We're going to have to do that. And then, yeah, we want to mix up what we do. Do we send none? Do we blitz 1? Do we blitz 2? How are they going to handle it? Things that we kind of got to figure out as we start the game and go through. We'll always have a plan and then okay, no, this team actually does handle the pressure well, so we shouldn't do that, or they don't handle it as well as we thought. You never really know until you get there. And so, but we want to keep mixing it up so they don't just know exactly where we're going to be at all times to give their quarterback as many problems as possible. Yeah, he's very efficient, takes care of the football, and that's why he's received the awards he's received and why they're in the final 8 here. So, yeah, it'll be a
Absolutely.
challenge for sure.
Yeah, no, you mentioned they got dudes, but you got dudes too. And I was talking to Garen Stokes from Dublin Kaufman last week, and he's like, playoff football is dude time, man. So you just let dudes do what they do. You rely on your best players, and they'll perform for you in these big time moments. So, no, but it's your third regional final in 5 years, Coach. Congratulations on all the success, and hopefully you guys continue moving on in these playoffs to the state Final Four. You've had a tremendous year, so best of luck at Crew Stadium this Friday, and we're looking forward to watching you play.
Well, I appreciate that, and thanks for what you guys do supporting high school football and giving some of these players the attention that they deserve for sure.
Stepping up is part of the Patriot way. That's the way it was in New England in the NFL for a long time, and it's the way it is with these Olentangy Liberty Patriots. And one of the other heroes in this game was Ben Godwin, 6 receptions, 84 yards, a touchdown, but he also had an interception in the end zone, his first of the year, and really made a heck of an impact for Liberty. And you heard Coach Stansbury say that he was kind of the MVP of that game, and he did step up in a huge way. But now let's move to the Pickerington North side, because they won 10-7 against Berlin. Berlin beat Gahanna early in the playoffs, and Pick North did an outstanding job defending Aiden Eviston. He did get his yards running the football, had a big run early, but they really shut him down, and they did just enough on offense. Jaron Mock had a 10-yard receiving touchdown, rushing touchdown, excuse me. And then at the end of the game, they're up 10-7, 3 minutes left, under 3. A big block defensively by none other than a disruptor on this defensive line, Daunte Curtis. And there he is right there. Daunte Curtis blocked a field goal attempt with 2:55 remaining to seal Pick North's win over Berlin and set up this regional final with Olentangy Liberty. So it's going to be a fantastic game, and I'm going to let Coach Hillerich break down the Pick North side for you before we dive into what we have left of our show and wrap things up for you tonight. But here is head coach Nathan Hillerich of the Pick North Panthers here on Stadium Drive, week number 14 in the regional final, Division I, region number 3.
Nate Hillerich, Pickerington North, joining us on Stadium Drive for the regional final. It's Division I, Region 3, and they're going to be taking on Olentangy Liberty this Friday. And, Coach, I appreciate your time. And it's been over a year since we last talked, man, but a big game against Liberty. But for the first time since 2017, your team is going to be playing in a regional final. And I know you've been knocking on the door for the last couple of years. You've been right there, real close. I'm sure this has got to feel really good for you and your kids and your program.
Yeah, no doubt. 2017 was my first year here at Pick North, and went to the regional final, and it was one of those things I was like, man, this is easy. Something that we'll do every year. I was in the regional final actually the year before in 16 at Hamilton Township, where I was before. So been in the semis 3 out of the last 4 years, and it was one of those things. It finally felt great to break through.
Absolutely. And your defense against Berlin last week just did an outstanding job on everybody, but especially, Aiden Eviston, forced 2 turnovers. I mean, he did a decent job, running the football. He did have a big run early, but you really, for the most part, kept him corralled and kept that Berlin offense at bay. And I think, and even on special teams too, you came up with a huge block at the end of the game. Daunte Curtis got a paw on a late field goal attempt with under 3 minutes to play. Just the defense and the special teams, I'm sure you just rock solid against Berlin. And I think he had a quote at the end of the game, in playoff football, teams with the best defense and the best special teams, they win. And I'm sure you agree with that.
Yeah, no question. I think that's true in all levels of football. And to shut down Berlin and their quarterback, like you said, that's a huge challenge. It's a really good football team. Proud of the fight from our kids because, you know, we were out there a lot on defense and just continued to find ways to get stops, get off the field. 2 weeks in a row, we blocked a field goal, which is huge. We had one against Pick Central that we returned for a touchdown. So just love the way we're playing on defense right now.
What's the key to getting hands on these kicks and blocking them? Because, you know, sometimes you get one during the season and it's lucky, but if you're doing it multiple times, clearly there's something in your preparation that allows your kids to be successful in those, you know, special team situations where they can get a block and then, you know, maybe get a score off of it, or just these are just big time plays that win you football games.
Yeah, and I think what you said, it's practicing it, right? It's details. You know, I don't care if it's punt team, offense, defense. You know, making sure you're going over all the details of everything you're doing, and we made sure we, you know, the week before we talked about, hey, who's the scoop and score guy off a block kick, all those great details. So, you know, it worked out that we've got two of them.
You know, Berlin obviously was a very tough challenge, but you might have an even tougher one in Olentangy Liberty up next. They got a win against Upper Arlington in the final minute. You know, they were down 13-10, got a touchdown, I think with 55 seconds left. And, you know, Justin Buttermore and UA, they just do a tremendous job defensively. They're, along with you, one of the best defenses in Division I. So for Liberty to come out on top of that, it speaks a lot to, you know, their grit as a team. But they have, you know, so many guys to account for. I mean, Andrew Leonard is an outstanding quarterback. Jake Struck is a kind of a do-it-all back that can catch and can run, and they even have him throw it sometimes. And Christian Moulton, you know, is another big guy for them too. I mean, how do you prepare defensively? Do you key in on one, all of them? I mean, it's tough to line up when a team like Liberty's got dudes everywhere.
Yeah, it's a challenge. You know, I think, you know, just their whole team, they're real senior heavy. These are guys that have played a lot of football. You know, a lot of them have played since their sophomore year. They took some lumps sophomore year, and even last year didn't have the greatest season, and paid off because they're senior heavy and they got a really good team. You know, it starts with 6, like you said, the quarterback back there, and I know he's a tough hockey player. I think that toughness and grit, you know, there's a lot of really good quarterbacks in Central Ohio, but it's really the intangibles I think he brings. He brings a lot of toughness, and he's just a winner, finds a way in all the games, makes some big plays. And then 21, he's their guy. They try to get him the ball any way they can. So we're going to have our hands full. We're prepared for it. Our kids, you know, we've had some really tough quarterbacks the last few weeks. We've had the Berlin quarterback from Pick Central, and quarterback from Westerville North. All 3 of them were all district quarterbacks that we've had challenges with. So luckily we're prepared for it.
Absolutely. And then what's the key for you offensively? You only put up 10 points against Berlin. Berlin is a great team offensively and defensively, of course, and that was a grinded out game. But what's the key to getting your offense going a little bit quicker and maybe taking some of these sustained drives and turning them into touchdowns instead of field goals?
Yeah, we got to score in the red zone. That's one of it. You know, the games we've struggled with, we had to set up a field goal. We missed a field goal last week against Berlin. But I think playing clean, you know, I think we had a couple penalties where we're driving, we're moving the ball, we're executing, being consistent. You get a holding penalty and it throws you off, and you're not going to have success at 1st and 20 against a team like Berlin, or definitely not against Olentangy Liberty. So we got to play clean, can't turn the ball over, which are all the cliches every coach will say. But
sure.
But that's what we got to do. You got to play clean against these guys, and then we got to get our playmakers the ball and let them make some plays. We got some really good skill kids. I think if we can get them the ball in space, we can make some plays against them.
Absolutely. It's going to be an outstanding game to watch, and you guys were in the regional final for the first time since you first started with Pick North, man. So it's really exciting for you and your squad and your program, and I appreciate you taking 5 or so minutes to talk some football with me this afternoon, man, and best of luck against Liberty on Friday, and we're looking forward to watching you guys play and seeing what you guys do.
Awesome. Thanks. Appreciate all you guys do at Storied Rivals.
Well, I mentioned Jaron Mock. He had the 10-yard rushing score, the only touchdown for Pick North in their 10-7 win against Berlin. But another playmaker for that Panther offense, Preston Bowman, had 130 total yards, 65 receiving, 65 rushing, and he had, I believe, 51 on a big run late in the game to seal it for the Pick North Panthers, the number 7 seed, as they take on Olentangy Liberty. And so it's going to be fantastic. And, Liberty, like I said, they've got dudes too, Struck, Moulton, and guys stepped up last week who are unsung heroes that aren't necessarily your headliners. But the quarterback, of course, we got to mention him, Andrew Leonard, because it's Jaron Mock for Pick North, a great quarterback in his own right. But he's going to be taking on one of the best in Central Ohio, and that's Andrew Leonard. And these Patriots, they're General Leonards, as I'm going to call them. And last week against UA, 18 of 28, 217 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. He did throw an interception, but they got the win. They're moving on, and they're taking on Pick North in this regional final here tonight at historic Crew Stadium. But I'll wrap up here from the car before I get out of here and head into the stadium. Let's look at the teams that we have left for Storied Rivals in our Storied Rivals coverage. So let's pull up the teams we've got left. We've got 4 of them. The only regional final matchup in Eastern and Northeastern Ohio in that area, number 1 Kirtland, number 6 Dalton, Division 6 Region 21, and then 3 of them in Central and Western Ohio. Centerville, the number 2 seed versus number 8 Wayne, a rematch from Week 10, Division 1 Region 2. Division 1 Region 3, we've got Liberty and Pick North, this game we're at tonight, and then number 1 Grandview Heights taking on number 2 Northmore in Division 6 Region 23, and Jason Peters has done a fantastic job with Grandview Heights this season. They shut out Fort Fry in their regional semi. Big plays for their offense all game long. Henry Olinger, 235 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns of 50 or more yards. So it was just big play after big play for Grandview Heights. And their defense was excellent. It was bend but don't break. And they've got number 2 Northmore in this regional final. And Henry Olinger might have been snubbed as D6 Central Ohio Offensive Player of the Year, but that's neither here nor there. Those are the teams that are left in our coverage area. And then next is the Final Four, baby. So the end of the season, it's almost upon us, but we've still got a couple weeks left, and hopefully a few of our teams that are left move on to the state Final Four. And we're doing Stadium Drive in Week 15. So I'll see you guys then. I'm going to head into Historic Crew Stadium. Make sure you follow us on Twitter for social updates on all the teams that we have left in our coverage area. I'll be doing and posting highlights for Liberty, Pick North tonight. And I'll see you guys in Stadium Drive Week 15. Happy football. Take care and stay warm because it's pretty frosty out tonight.